Joe Zachary? Yeah?
Oh, boys, no fires. Tony doesn't want any fires.
You want to be together? Yeah! You want to be!
Can I help you?
Yeah. We're looking for a Jack Wimmer.
That would be the penthouse.
All right, here. You can finish it, man.
Stone and Rail in Glen Rock, and I am with the legendary stuntman, Tim Gallin. I'm going to spell his name so you can look him up on IMDb. It's Gallin. He has, when you ask somebody how many credits you have, and they say, I don't know, somewhere between 300 and 400, you know they've done a lot of work in the industry. 40 years, Tim. Thank you so much for coming on.
Well, your pleasure.
I really appreciate it. So I want to get into your back, because I always felt like stuntmen are completely underappreciated outside of the industry. Mm-hmm. I mean, within the industry, I know actors cling to you guys because you saved their lives about 1 billion times. But outside of the industry, you're faceless.
Right.
I mean, you can walk down the street, no one would ever know who you are.
It's true.
Which is kind of cool.
It is.
Because you could work in the industry, which is so visual,
right,
and yet just nobody knows you. But now everybody knows you.
Well, it's true. It's like with social media, we've kind of come out of the shadows.
Yeah.
And
is that good or bad? Both.
I tend to be. It's funny when I was a kid, and you want to be famous, and you see, what draws you to, what drew me to film, and was watching, as a child of television age, and then once a week you get to go to the movies. You're just, that's really what your fantasies are all built around. And but when I got into the filmmaking business and TV, and then you start to observe and you start to get to know some people who are famous, and you realize that it comes with different problems.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so it's and you get to realize that they're just human beings, and they have issues with children or with family members or with the tax man.
Yeah, exactly. They have rashes on their elbows like everybody else.
Right. They, so sometimes when you want to be on the down low and no one knows you, you can be.
Yeah.
And that's and it is nice, and it's funny where with my wife, I'd go out to parties, and if you don't see somebody for a while, hey, what are you doing? Who are you working with? This, that, and the other thing. And she'll be like, oh, I've heard this a million times. And, she's got to go leave and go do something else because she's sick of hearing the same stories over and over again. And so I understand that. So it's, there's some give and take, but overall, I'm very happy where I landed, and it's true. You get to know some famous people, and you say, man, at least I can go out to a restaurant and have a bite to eat, not be bothered.
Yeah, exactly.
I can do these sorts of things. So
as a writers, producer, the guys that are behind the scenes that you don't see. But I mean, as stuntmen, you guys are putting your lives on the line almost every single day.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. We describe our work as 10 to 12 hours of boredom, punctuated by 30 seconds of sheer terror. And
it's a balance.
It is. But a lot of what we do, is we're there for to be around the gag. There's what's called the hot seat. And when you're in the hot seat, then yes, you're in a dangerous situation, or you're, it can be dangerous for your health. But most times, a lot of times, you're in a support area. It's a fight or something like that.
Yeah, it's controlled chaos.
Yes, very much so. And your body will take a beating, and you'll because you have to do multiple takes for different
angles.
So I've always kind of. When I've described stunts to people, I say it's a specific activity in a very small amount of space, because the camera has to capture it. So you have to understand where the camera is, and then create something where it might be easier with a lot more space, but you have to do it within that frame.
Yeah. So you're always asking, where's the frame?
Sure.
So if it's a wide shot, you have a lot more play area.
Mm-hmm.
How did you get involved in all this?
So the way it happened to me was I was a freshman in high school. I went to Iona Prep in New Rochelle, and I had gone to Iona Grammar School, and at that time, I guess during my grammar school days, I started watching football, and I was a Chicago Bear fan because of Dick Butkus, who was just introduced to social media this week.
Oh, is that right?
They have him, he Twittered and did stuff, he was doing stuff on the phone, which made him look, his age.
Right.
And so it's trending, like,
Yeah.
So anyway, it was.
And it's his kids or his grandkids saying, "Come on, Grandpa, you got to get on. I'll teach you how to do it. I'll manage it for you."
And I'm on the Instagram with the Chicago Bears because they're one of my favorite teams, and so that's how I got to see it. Was they're putting it out there because
so funny.
It brings attention to their team.
Yeah.
And their brand. So, but anyway, so I loved football, and then playing for Iona was a big deal in my town.
What position?
I was a center and a linebacker.
So you took all the hits.
Yeah, you're in the middle of it. You're banging every.
The play starts with the center.
That's true.
Yeah,
that's true. And you have to, if you have your head down, sometimes you're getting clubbed.
Yeah.
So it was, but it was, football is like many things a microcosm of life, and you taught a lot of important lessons and teamwork and relying on others, and so it's a violent game, but it's a good lesson for those that enjoy physical
that
activity.
Kind of thing. So
are sadomasochists.
So when you finish, you're like, you know what? I've gotten used to getting beaten up. How can I pursue this?
Well, that did help. I think that was my training ground for eventually becoming a stunt performer, and I went to Iona, and unbeknownst to me, that this person that I met for the first time would be so helpful in my career. And
At Iona?
At Iona, yeah, I was on my first fire drill line. You know, you're a freshman in high school. I had gone through the 2 weeks of double sessions. I made the freshman football team, so now it's the first week or second week of high school, and I'm all excited, and I'm on the freshman team, and so feeling my oats, and I'm on the fire drill line. Some guy bumped into me, so I go, get out of my, like that, he's trying to be a tough guy. Next thing I know, I'm getting judo flipped onto the ground, and there's a teacher there who was, this guy who was about 5'5". He goes, "You did it again, I'll kill you." And that was my introduction to Vic Magnotta.
Vic Magnotta.
Vic Magnotta. Now, Vic Magnotta was he was a recon Marine. He was in Vietnam.
And this is who you picked on.
Right. No, I didn't push him. I pushed another kid, and he saw it.
Oh, he's the one.
So this was corporal punishment, which was very, which is automatic in the 70s.
Right.
Especially in a Catholic high school. So we, so I was like, I steered clear of Vic, in the early, and I remember playing freshman ball. We were out back, and the freshmen would be in one section of the field, the JV, and then the varsity would be down the other end. So you could see all the different players, and who you, oh man, I'm going to play like him, or So anyway, there was a guy, Joe Garagiola.
Joe
remember
Garagiola?
Joe?
Yeah.
He was the catcher.
Yeah.
And he used to do a lot of talks. He would do the father and son breakfast. And
that's
and,
cool.
And his son, Steve, went to Iona, and he was a year ahead of me. And so Steve did something in practice that angered Vic. And Steve was a guy who was big for high school in those days. He was like 6'2" and about 220 pounds, 210 pounds. He was, big for that time. And Vic was, like I say, he was probably 5'8", 5'7", but he was like a little fire plug. And so we're doing drills, and I look over, and Vic has Steve Garagiola by the face mask, and he starts to bounce him off the ground, like off his stomach, like this. And I'm like, oh my God, wow. Is that the guy we have to play for next year?
Wow.
So, needless to say, I did play football for him the next year. But there's like after practice one day, I wisecracked him, and he took, and I had a lot of, I had hair back then, which I don't
Didn't
have
we
now.
all?
But I went and he takes my head and bam, bam, bam against the metal doors of the locker room. So
that's when you could do that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, and in a funny way, you felt like you deserved it.
Right.
It was
right. Like you walk away, it's like, yeah, I know.
And you knew if you went home and told your parents, hey, the coach smacked me. Oh yeah. Well, you must have been doing something wrong then.
Exactly. It was a different time.
Very different.
Yeah.
So anyway, I went through the 4 years with Vic there. He was my audiovisual teacher, so my teacher about making films. We had to make a film.
Oh, that's cool.
In his class, and
is that what you were studying?
No, it was just one of the one of the courses that you could take in the junior senior years. So it was pretty cool, making the movie and learning about it, and but when I left, I graduated in 1974 from my own prep, and I said, man, I never want to see that guy again for the rest of my life. But the interesting thing was he was best friends with my brother's best friend. My brother John, he's 81 now. He's and he had this guy Billy Sheridan. And Sheridan actually put the seed in my head for the very first time. He used to come over to dinners at my house, and I was a dopey kid putting on the Ritz all the time, trying to make people laugh. And he was sitting at dinner with us one night, and he goes, and he was working as a page at NBC, and he eventually became a guy that put people together to make movies in LA.
Oh, cool.
And when I went out there to make a movie, I met with him, and he trying to help us, and great guy. You know, you'd see him on commercials. He did acting. He was like a, you know, whatever he could make money in Hollywood.
Yeah.
And so Billy was sitting across from me at the dinner table. He goes, you know, we should put Timothy in the movies. You know, he's good. You know, he could work. You know, and that was, I never forgot that that he you know, put that seed in my head.
Yeah.
So and it turns out his best friend was Vic. They were, you know, they were buddies growing up, and then Sheridan was also best friends with my oldest brother. You know, there's 15 and a half years between us. I'm the youngest of 7.
Oh, wow.
So, you know, and anyway, I didn't know any of this, and went to college, and, you know, I played football for a couple of years there. I wrestled, boxed. So I was into all the physical.
You boxed too.
Yeah.
So you'd like to get beaten up.
Yes. Yeah. I have a, you know. See, I always felt it was my fault. You know?
Right. So I need this to happen.
Please, sir, can I have another?
Yeah.
You know. So anyway, they, you know, went through college, and in college, you know, we would do. Hooper came out around that time. You know, the movie about stuntmen.
Yeah.
With Jan Michael Vincent and Burt Reynolds and you know, Terry Bradshaw was in it. And there was this guy Tim Rossovich who was a football player, and he was one of the bouncers in the bar where they had the big barroom brawl. And so, you know, that piqued my interest, and so in college is when I first started saying, you know, maybe I'll try to do that for a living. So I used to do fake fights in college, and you know, we did one fight where me and my friend, we started a fake fight in a dance. You know, it was a St. Valentine's Day dance at the college, and everybody's in there dancing, and we start. And I go, throw me over this table. He throws me over a table, and then a real fight broke out.
Oh, did it really?
Yeah, guys came to like, you know, and you know, guys.
One's
came
trying to
grab
hold the
us.
other one, and then they get
somebody else started punching. And I swear to God, we crawled out of there, and like people
and you left,
brawling.
and they're still fighting. That's when you knew that was a career.
Right. And then we'd go out, like we do, we'd call it, well, some people call it skitching, we'd call it bumper skiing.
Oh yeah.
And then,
on the
you
snow.
know, we would, you know, go on the snow,
Hold on
grab
to
the
the
bumper, and then I got to the point where I had a rope on mine, and I found this typewriter that was a typewriter case that was like this really heavy duty plastic.
Yeah, like a
and
Smith
you could
and
like
Corona.
sit in it. And I had a guy up to 30 miles an hour on this thing.
No.
And I'm going around, and he's like, whoa. So yeah, we would do stuff like that. Just stupid, you know, stupid stuff. And so anyway, I graduated college, and you know, and people used to say to me, you know, stuff I did around. You go, you should get paid for what you do, you know, because I was giving it away for free.
Right. There's
you know,
a novelty.
put on a show for people.
Yeah.
So I left. So when I graduated college, my father gave me a little bit of money, and I said, I'm going to go to California. So I went to California, flew
Went
out
to
there.
Hollywood.
Yep, went out there, and
And you didn't know anybody other than.
yeah. Well, it was funny when I first flew out there. There was a girl that I knew in college, and she was, you know, we you know, I think we messed around one time, but she was like, you got to come out to California. You know, she was a year ahead of me, and she went out there, and her sister worked in commercials, so she was my contact out there. So I thought I was going to be living with her, and then when I got out there, she picks me up at the airport. She drives me to get coffee, and then she tells me that her sister's nanny overdosed on aspirin or something.
Oh,
So she had to move in. So you know, some cockamamie story.
Right.
So I was out. So I ended up having to find. And I ended up calling a guy from high school that I knew, and ended up moving in with him. And he was an actor also, and he was trying to. He got me some work as doing background,
Sure.
and things of that nature. And then what finally happened was I started. You know, I one time I was working. There were some other guys from college out there also who I stayed with, and one day I'm looking in the paper and auditions for the Gong Show. So
For the Gong Show.
yeah.
Wow, Chuck Barris production. Yeah.
So you know, I used to have friends in high school Benny and Rocky Marciano, and they used to, get up and do like
Rocky Marciano?
Rocky Marciano, yeah. Benny and Rocky. Rocky, I think was
Not the
Rocky Marciano.
Yeah, I
but
was going to say, you got to be 110 years
Yeah.
old.
But he, that's what his nickname was, Rocky, and I forget what his real name is. Everybody just called him Rocky.
Yeah.
And they had the whole pompadour, and they did the whole act, with Elvis and Sinatra and all this. And
Oh,
they would
okay.
do it at parties. So I would get up at parties and sing with them. And my song was Blue Suede Shoes. So I said, I'll go in, and I went in an audition for the Gong Show singing Blue Suede Shoes. So you walk into this, it was the Small World restaurant, or Old World restaurant. It was a restaurant that wasn't being used. And in the back they had, set up like this with a camera guy and a sound guy, and you did it a cappella. And it was just very, very much like being here.
Yeah, it's a little cold.
It was completely cold.
Yeah.
And there was like a room full of people. You go in there, and everybody. So I did it, and they go, okay, and you feel like that. There's no way I'm getting. So I get a phone call from Barris's offices, and we want you to come for a second audition to the office.
No way.
Yeah. So I go to the office. Now I'm sitting in the waiting room, and there's like some nuns over here, and there's a Girl Scout over here, and then Wicked Witch of the West walks in, and they have guitars, and they start playing songs, and I'm like, whoa, where am I? And I go into a room, and they tell you to bring sheet music, and I said, and it's, you walk in this room, and there's some women and guys, and you kind of don't know where you are, and there's a piano in there.
Yeah.
And Milty DeLug, who was the piano player, he's sitting at the piano. So I go over to give him the sheet music, and I feel somebody patting my butt, and I turn, and there's this beautiful blonde. I go, oh, how you doing? And then I look further, it's Barris, and he's going, come on, kid, let's go. Let's go. So I said, okay. So Milty DeLug starts playing. I start singing. Barris throws on his guitar, and he starts playing along.
Oh, that's cool.
And I did it, and he's like, all right. He goes, a lot of energy on the show, kid. A lot of energy on the show. And I left, so I knew I was in the show.
And you were on the Gong Show.
Yeah. So then I went back to Burbank Studios like a week
How
later.
cool is that?
Yeah.
We're gonna have to find that episode.
Well, I've been trying for years. I had a tape of it, and it got erased by my friend, and I tried to look, and it's funny because a lot of people, I don't know if it was in Barris's private collection, and he passed away a couple years ago, so I don't know if it's
I
hasn't
can't
been
believe you're on the
released yet.
Gong Show. That's so fun.
And he was a huge Elvis fan, so he waited a year. This is, Elvis passed away in 77.
Yeah.
And then, so this was 78. He waited a year until his anniversary and wanted to do a tribute show to him.
Is that the one you were on?
So it was all Elvis impersonators.
Wow. Okay.
And
That's got to be easy to find. I'm gonna look for that.
All right, you look for that.
I'm gonna look for that. I'm gonna write a note. All right.
Yep. And and so it was like there was the I was the Irish Elvis. There was there was a Puerto Rican Elvis, a black Elvis.
Every nationality.
Every nationality. There was 2 female Elvises, and the guy that won was an American Indian Elvis, Alexander Long Rifle, the chief of rock and roll. And
That was his name?
That was his name. And the one regret I have is, he invited me out to go to an Indian bar that night, where he played. And I didn't go. I went with my friends to another bar. And I wish I'd kind of gone down there, because that would have been kind of a cool experience.
Yeah, sure.
And he ended up as a lounge lizard in Vegas, and
Really?
had a career. Yeah,
Alexander Long Rifle.
yeah, Alexander Long Rifle, and he had a real velvet voice, and he was almost like Freddie Mercury. He had this white outfit on, and he definitely deserved to win. But there were 4 of us got 30. We got scores of 30.
Right.
Only 3 of the 30 people made the show. The one guy that got 30 didn't even make the show, because they wanted a feel for the show of the diversity, and, and the more outrageous would get on rather than however they decided, but it was just really a cool experience, and yeah.
So you're on a Gong Show. How do you go from the Gong Show?
Well, that got me. What that did was that got me what's called a must-join contract. So if you were able to be a performer on one of these variety shows, then you have the AFTRA at the time, American
you have to
Federation.
join AFTRA.
They were more of an open union. You know, you didn't have to. Where SAG, you had to have. You still do. You have to get like 3 vouchers.
Yeah.
So you have to kind of earn your way to join. And back in those days, it was like everything else, much cheaper. Where AFTRA was, at the time I think was $500, and SAG was $750. But they had a deal where if you were in one union and wanted to join the other union, they'd let you do it for half price.
Right.
So I got an AFTRA for $250, and then I got SAG for $250.
Nice.
I think they were $250 and SAG was $500. So I got in both for $500.
Nice.
And I joined the union. I had no clue how I was going to get work.
Right.
So I'm in AFTRA, and when I was in California, I called Vic. I finally, this is one thing that I forgot to tell you was when I was in college, and the whole situation of never wanting to see Vic again, and this will go to the other part of the story, is that I'm watching Taxi Driver, and it's my sophomore year in college, 1976. And I'm sitting in the theater, and shows up at Vic. There's Vic as one of Senator Palatine's Secret Service agents.
Really?
Yeah. And what I didn't realize at the time was that when Vic came back from Vietnam, he, on the GI Bill, was able to go to whatever college he wanted to go to. So he picked NYU, and he went and took film, and that was the reason why he was our audiovisual teacher, because he had a degree in audiovisual from communications from NYU, from the Tisch School. So, fortunately, he went there at the same time as a guy by the name of Marty Scorsese. I don't know if you ever heard of him, but
it's an Italian guy, right?
Yeah. And they were both Italian. They were both mama's boys, and so they bonded. And Vic did. They become friends. They were both considering the Jesuits also. Vic was in, I don't know if Marty went to the Jesuit school, but Vic went to St. Joseph's in Yonkers.
I'm pretty sure he did go.
Yeah. So I think I don't know if they just had that as a common bond, or they knew each other from there even. But anyway, so here they are in NYU, and they're Marty's making his student films, and Vic would help him, and did art direction, it did whatever.
Right.
And if you go on YouTube and look at Martin Scorsese's first film, it's this film called Can You Hear Me Knocking? Yeah. And it's his first, him and Harvey Keitel's in it. Yeah. Well, the scene opens where the family's having dinner, and somebody knocks at the door, and it's Vic, and he's an Italian guy playing a Puerto Rican, and he's got this headband on, and he's and him and Keitel get into a fight, and they're rolling around the street, and so that's that's how far back it goes.
But there were no stuntmen. They were actually the ones doing it. Yeah. Because nobody's affording stuntmen doing student films.
No, and so when they graduated, they had this piece, one of the pieces that they did together. But Marty went out to go raise his money for what became Mean Streets, and Vic came to my high school to work. To make a living, and so he, shortly after when I went to college, he shortly then left and became a stunt coordinator in New York City, which I didn't know. Which I found out, and that's why when I was out in California, I said, "Ah, shit! Now I have to call Vic."
That was the last thing you wanted to do. And when you hit bottom, it was like, I
gotta call him. So I called him, and he's like, "Hey, Chico." He used to call me Chico. He called everybody Chico. But he said, he goes, "I got nothing right now, but if you come back to New York, give me a call." I go, "Okay." So, there wasn't much work for me out in L.A. at the time. I went to this place. Stunts Unlimited is one of the elite groups. It was started by Hal Needham.
I was just gonna say it must have been a Hal Needham.
Hal Needham and
who was like the biggest.
He
at that time.
He grew. Well, like you said before, where stuntmen are. You don't know who they are.
Yeah, unsung heroes.
It was even more so in the olden days, where all the westerns and the guy like Yakima Canutt, who was in the movie Stagecoach, he did the transfer from the horses to the back to the carriage
to the
and
coach,
then rode underneath the horses, which was then an homage was made to him by Terry Leonard or I think it was Terry Leonard or Vic Armstrong with Indiana Jones underneath the truck when he's using the bullwhip.
Yeah.
And that was an homage to Yakima. And and so there's been lots of great stuntmen have come down the line and nobody knows who they are.
I know, it's amazing.
They have done, like Corey Eubanks, he started a thing in LA called Stunt Stories, and then they were bringing on as guests some of the older guys to tell some of their stories.
Yeah.
And
well, that's why I think it's great that the SAG Awards honor the stunts of whatever movies are.
Yeah, they're starting to get more recognition. There's a whole big brouhaha that's happened over the course of the time that we're not involved in the Academy Award and the Oscars. So there is no Oscar for stunt coordination or stunt performance. And personally, I'm someone who I didn't get into the business for awards. Awards are nice. I mean, I'm
recognition.
I'm sure if I ever got up for the Oscar, the first thing I would say was, I'm not into awards, so to say, but now that I got one, I kind of like it.
Exactly.
It ain't bad,
Yeah.
But anyway, there has been a movement to try to get more recognition, and I have won a couple of SAG awards, being in an ensemble like Indiana Jones and Born Ultimatum, and I was nominated for Doctor Strange. But we're the guys that do get nominated. Some of us are in a very minor, position as opposed to the whole great thing. So you stay humble. You say, hey, thanks, and it's cool to be a part of a very small part of a very bigger thing.
Yeah.
But
what was your favorite movie to work on or TV show?
That's like having a favorure child.
I know, right? They're all good.
They're all good,
But you always like one more than the other.
Yeah, I guess I'll look at Splash, for instance. Splash was,
I love that movie.
And I doubled Tom Hanks.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, so it was a situation, and it was supposed to go to another guy, Billy and Agnes. And Billy was, the best driver east of the Mississippi. He was incredible, just what a great guy. He unfortunately passed away, but he was just this kid from up in Albany who was, got into dirt bikes, and the Joey Chitwood driving a team would come through and do the county fairs. And they would do the tricks in the cars.
Oh, that's cool.
He was riding a motorcycle, and he auditioned for him, and they immediately took him on at I think he was 15 when he first started working for him or something. And he was just a great bike rider and cars, and could worked on them. He was a mechanic, and he could build cars or whatever. He was He was just, and people didn't realize how much production saved, because a lot of times we'd be doing stunts in the early days, and they'd give us these, piece of junk cars,
right?
And they'd break down, and then Billy'd get under there and
fix them up,
fix them, and save production a heck of a lot of lost time or whatever.
And stuntmen, you become known, this guy's a great driver. This one's great at this. This one. So, did you have one of those? Was there one thing that you loved doing? That
for me, I guess I was more of a fight fight and fall guy. You know, I think
I could
I'm-
tell if you're in high school and you're getting thrown over tables,
yeah.
you knew writing was on the wall.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, like I said, the background of football, boxing, things of those natures. Guys come in from all, and girls. There's a lot of great stunt women out there, and they come from different. You know, they come from gymnastics. They come from dance. They come from. Some are you know, mechanics that like to work on cars or car guys. They race. But yeah, it's such a wide range of skill, and some have multiple skills. You know, they can do you know, incredible stuff in various aspects. But getting back, you know, we were doing a movie, and we had actually done some lead up scenes to this stuff where I'm in a car and banging with him, and then he ends up he had to flip a car on this one movie, so they had looked at us both for Double and Hanks, and they had picked Billy, but he was flipping the car, so they just sent me down.
Oh, really?
And it was funny because,
sorry, you can't get him. He's flipping cars.
well, it was funny because, you know, I went down to get looked at by Ron Howard. You know, we're in the middle of Times Square, and they're doing a scene with Daryl Hannah where they're walking through Times Square. So me and Billy are standing there, and the producers are there, Ron Howard, and they're rah, 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 rah. And they go, yeah, that's, you know, they picked Billy. I go, okay. So, you know, we leave and we go back up to the other movie that we're doing upstate. And then they go, okay, they gotta do the driving stuff down in the city. And Billy's not available. Tim, you just go down. So I go down there and I show up, and the same producer that picked Billy goes, oh, you're perfect. You're perfect.
Right, was it perfect 2 weeks ago?
They were gonna maybe use me to double Eugene Levy, who, you know, fell down you know, one of those sidewalk elevators.
Right.
But so I show up, and you know, it's when after they steal Daryl Hannah as the mermaid back, and they get her in this BMW,
sure.
and they drive down to the South
So you
Street
were that
Seagull.
driver.
So I was that driver, and I ended up jumping in the East River for him, and Hanks was.
That was nice of you.
Yeah. Yeah, he got to go to Bermuda
Right.
and do all the underwater stuff, and I got the East River.
Right. Something's wrong there.
But you know, but Tom was just, you know, he's so successful, I think, because what you see is what you get. He's just, you know, he's just that guy. He's just very personable, very intelligent, and he even came over to my apartment for a party when we were.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, towards the end of the movie, we were having a party at my apartment. And, you know, only I think a couple of people knew who he was from Bosom Buddies.
Right.
you
Yeah,
know.
because this was early in his career.
He was still, you know.
He wasn't the Tom Hanks that we know today.
No, and I, you know, I doubled him there and on Fire, and I was supposed to double him on Saturday Night Live. That didn't happen, but he was the kind of guy where I used to work construction also, and when I couldn't get stunts, and I'd be up. NBC was one of my clients, so I'd be in there. And I bumped into him, you know, when he was in the halls, and he's like, hey, he goes, Tim, how you doing? He goes, you still doing construction? I go, yeah, that's why I'm here. You know, he remembered your name.
Yeah.
He remembered.
That's cool.
You know, it was.
The gentleman.
That's how he, and I guess that's how he remembers his lines. He has such a great memory.
Right.
But
So I have to ask you now. This is the geeky part of me. Like, did you do falls downstairs?
Yes.
Things like this. So when you're falling downstairs, do you have things on underneath, like padding or hat?
you try to get as much on.
And
as you
I
can.
know that there's certain ways to fall.
Yes.
Like you have to know how to fall.
Well, with stairs, it's almost kind of like you just have to go for it. you know, you kind of like have to like. You almost have to look at it like if you're going to fall on regular ground, like you're going to do a flip on, like a forward roll or something like that. You just have to think of it like that. Like the ground is now angled,
Right.
so you're just
You're
rolling
gonna go
down.
faster.
So you're going to go faster,
Yeah.
and you're going to land a little harder.
Yeah.
And then there's, you know, there would always be directors that would say, hey, can you have your feet here and your head over there, and you know, so like you have to figure out how to get the
To
body
that position.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the other thing is when you're going to be shot or thrown downstairs or something like that, you always want to try to make sure that you end up in a comfortable position, because sometimes they may go to other stuff, and you have to stay in that position while they're shooting
Right.
around.
Right.
So if you're like this, you know,
Yeah, it's a problem.
You have to stay like that for an hour or two. you know.
Yeah.
It's
And
not-
then you
it's
also have
not
to make
fun.
sure your face is covered. So
Right.
Yeah.
Well, that's I mean, if you're doubling somebody, you have to fall away from camera.
Yeah,
There's different techniques, but yeah, and it's funny. The padding has gotten, you know, along with the technology, you know, it's very tight. There's all kinds of companies that make. There was one company, I guess, at a time where, you know, it became form fitted on your body after you wore it.
Really?
Yeah, and it's, you know, so they have some pretty incredible.
Well, as the padding gets better, the stunts get more intense.
Yeah, well, there's, I mean, you know, look at the X Games, and you know, there's just,
Yeah, right.
you know, these people are going for it in ways, you know, not seen before, and you know, technology has helped that, the ability to of motorcycles, of just, you know, the surfers. We've worked with surfers, you know, because they have great balance, and
Oh, okay.
and
I mean, it's one of those things that's, it's not a class. Like, you're not going to go to college for being a stuntman. It's a lot of on-the-job training.
yeah, well, when I was coming up, it very much was, you know, respect for the people.
All right, so we had a bit of a glitch.
It's called a battery. It's called not bringing the battery that you need.
We're back.
Yeah, so we had a little bit of a technical issue. So yeah, so I wanted to get there's a couple things that I wanted to talk about.
Okay.
I you know, I'm a movie buff. I've got 1,000 DVDs. We're, you know, we're a movie family, and there were, you know, I always loved the chauffeur turns. I mean, that's the name that I had heard what they were back in the 70s and 80s.
Right.
When the car's going backwards, spins around and goes forwards
Oh, okay.
without hesitation.
Okay, that's a reverse 180.
Oh, see, he's got the right word. We called it the chauffeur turn. He's got the reverse 180. Is that? Have you done that?
Yes.
Is that easy to do? Is that?
No.
It's not. That doesn't look easy.
No, I mean, it's a repetition thing. You know, there are driving schools.
That teach you those things?
Yeah, they teach you those things, and my friends have a place, Drivers East, which is down in Allaire Township.
And you can go down there and learn how to do
and
that.
You can learn how to do. You know, it's like evasive driving. What they teach the police.
Yeah.
And things, or you know, Secret Service and the, you know, military. You know, bodyguards. These guys like Blackwater. They're all trained in how to do evasive driving, and you know, and you know, and then the other side of it is you can have you can get a car with a hydraulic brake, where, you know, like when we used to do it, we would if we had to do a 90 or a 180 or whatever, you know, you get the cars from the movie car place,
Right.
And you know, sometimes you got a good car, sometimes you got a dog,
Beat up
and,
car.
and you know, you'd get a few out of your emergency brake, but then it would die.
Right.
You just wear it out. So they've come up with hydraulic brakes where you can go in there and you can just do it all day, and get a car. And yeah, so, I mean, if they really need a car to perform, they can build a car or modify a car to do what you need to do.
So now there are a lot of stunts that are gone. Like, I used to love when you had the stunt driver that would go up on the two wheels, and be able to ride that and turn and do, which was amazing to me.
Yeah.
And they don't do that anymore.
Well, they've used it in film in certain instances. They still do it in the shows, like
In TV shows.
or live shows.
Oh yeah.
There's guys that are out there that do that at the
I
live
always
shows.
love that stuff.
Yeah.
And then there was another one that I noticed that, you know, because I'm the geeky guy. I'm the guy that pauses to look at the stuntman's face and say, he doesn't look anything like Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Right.
Why did they pick this guy?
Yeah.
That's me.
You're the guy on the internet, commenting.
I won't comment because I have too much respect for the industry, but I will tell my friends. I told my daughter, look at it. You could tell it's not him.
So I'm doing Indiana Jones. I'll tell you a little story. So I get Indiana Jones and the Crystal Skull, I think was that one. And they shot it up at Yale in New Haven.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah. So, and there was, I think it's the opening. It's when, when Harrison Ford is going to get his, I think it's his nephew, Shia LaBeouf plays.
Yeah, yeah.
And he's at college, and he's going to get him to go look for this thing or whatever that they go off together. So they shot it at Yale. So I go up to Yale. I had to, go up for a fitting once, and then I went back, and go to the hotel, and the next morning, 6 a.m. call. So I'm up there at 5. I get dressed, and I'm playing this plumber in a truck, and I'm driving a truck, and Shia LaBeouf is, has Harrison Ford on the back of a motorcycle, and they're, trying to get away from these, what I guess they're Russian guys, or they're all in the fedoras, and it's like in the 50s, and they pull up, and there's a bus, and I'm in this plumber's truck, and they can't get by us, so Harrison Ford gets pulled off the back of the motorcycle into the car, and there's a fight, and he beats the crap out of the guy, and then gets back out, gets on the motorcycle, and gets away. So it's like a double transfer. And,
Right.
And I'm up there early, raring to go for my first day. I'm all excited. I'm working on a Spielberg film finally, and it's just you saw it as a kid, and you want you want to work on one of these. So I'm sitting out by the green in Yale University, and and these 2 pretty girls come walking up, and there's a camera guy with them. They go, "Oh, hi, are you with the movie?" And I said, "Yeah," and they were local reporters for the local station, so they started asking me questions, but I know in the back of my mind I hadn't signed an NDA yet, but you can't give out what's going on.
Yeah.
So I talked around and everything like that, and I was fine with it. I thought, so we get into the day, and I'm doing what's known as second unit. First unit was all for the stars, and we were doing other shots on second unit that are going to be part of this chase that you wouldn't, we would use the doubles, and they're doing first unit stuff. So I'm driving the plumbing truck, and all the stunt guys had bags with anything they need, padding or harnesses,
toolbox.
Yeah, their toolbox. So they throw them all in the back of my plumber's truck, and we go up and we break for lunch, and I park my truck and I get some lunch, and then the coordinator of the second unit director came up to me and goes, "Hey, is your truck locked? Is it safe with all the stuff in there?" And I said, "You know what?" I said, "I'll go up and I'll sit with it." Excuse me for a second. I got something in my throat, but so I went up to sit by the truck, and I'm sitting on this stairs to a church, and Yale is old to begin with. There's old, but they had all the old cars, and the art department had doctored up.
Right. Make it look
so it looked really cool.
Yeah.
And so there's tourists, there's people who are in Yale for whatever reason, or local people, and they're walking around looking at the set and looking at different things. And Spielberg is supposedly very, he's, I don't know if he's worse than others or whatever, but he doesn't want any of the storyline to get out there before the film.
Right. And here you are talking to reporters.
Well, so I'm sitting there, and these strangers walking by looking at the thing, and they point at me, and there's one group, "Oh, I saw you on television this morning," and then now it's like noon. We started at 6, so we broke around noon. So now it's the early afternoon. So so anyway, I realized I got to get back down to where everyone's meeting, and I leave, and one of the wardrobe women comes walking by, and she goes, "Boy, you're on television a lot. I tell you, everyone, I show you television." So I guess they didn't, it's one of these local stations, so they just keep showing, repeating stuff over and over again.
No.
So anyway, I go back, finish the day, and the next day I'm going to be on first unit. Now they're going to have me on first unit with Spielberg and Ford and all those, you know, and everybody's there. And so I'm walking to work, and I'm going over to where there's the, you know, Video Village, where all the mucky mucks sit and watch the monitors. And it turns out,
Is that what you call it? Video Village?
Video Village, yeah. So it turns out that they don't need me in my truck for the first few shots, because they're going to use a blanking on this, you know, a process trailer. You know, so where they're going to have a camera car, which is going to be in the place of where my truck is with a camera.
Right.
So it's going to be the POV of what my truck would be to what's going on.
Yeah.
Like if you were sitting on the back of my truck.
Sure.
So, so they don't need me right now because there's a camera car driver. So I'm going to go sit on the stairs next to where Spielberg, these guys are looking at monitors. So I'm walking across the street to go to the Video Village, and there's a cop directing traffic, you know, and he's, all right, you know, hold on, you know, let's track through. He goes, okay, you can come across. So I'm walking across the crosswalk, and he goes, hey, I saw you on YouTube last night.
Oh no, you're everywhere.
So I'm like, so anyway, I'm sitting down, and Spielberg's, so I'm like hiding. I don't want to see anybody. You know?
Yeah.
So I finally had to say, I got to go to the bathroom. So I go down, and there's a bathroom down in this building we're sitting out in front of. They had a bathroom available to us. And Spielberg has like 3 bodyguards around him, you know, all during the day. You know, they're kind of innocuous, but they're there in case anybody wants to ask him a million questions.
Right.
And so I'm finished in the bathroom, I'm washing my hands, and one of his bodyguards walks in. And he looks over at me and goes, hey, you catch any shit for that interview yet?
Oh no! Did Spielberg talk to you about it?
No.
Nobody did?
No. I guess I didn't say anything to get me fired.
Wow.
And but it really taught you the power of you know, me and my friends, we kid about it all the time. If there were cameras like there are today in our day, we'd be in jail.
Oh yeah.
You know.
If everybody had cell phones back in the 70s and 80s and the 60s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you really have to leave your house every day and go, I'm being watched at all times.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I better, you know, like this guy that was just, you know, urinating on his wife's grave. I don't know if you saw that.
I had heard about it. I heard a friend of mine told me about that. It's just, how do you?
But I mean,
there is no.
Hopefully, this guy does get embarrassed because, you know, or maybe he's just, you know, a sociopath and he could care less.
Right. Well, listen, Tim Gallin. Make sure you look up his. I could go on and on.
No, I know there are. There's a million stories.
Great stories. We'll have you back on.
Sure.
How about that?
Yeah. No,
and what are you working on now?
I just finished doing a Mayhem commercial.
Now you guys know that Allstate.
Yeah,
Mayhem.
Allstate, and it was a lot of fun. Dean's great, you know, and I appreciate all work, and the other thing I've been doing is I've doubled Steve Martin on 4 different projects, and it's Only Murders.
Are you doing that new one with the murders?
Only Murders in the Building, yeah. So
yeah.
I've
that's
doubled
cool.
him on that, and
yeah, we got to post a picture of you and him together.
Yeah,
that's a good picture.
Sure.
Well, listen, Tim Gallin. It's and when you're watching movies, guys, when you're watching all the action and all the things that are going on, just know that it's guys like Tim. And it's you know, a lot of his friends and a lot of his
well, there's a lot of younger guys now doing it.
Yeah.
You get to a certain age and you know, things don't bend the same way they used to. So.
Yeah, right. But when you watch them, and that's why I appreciate that Screen Actors Guild, the SAG Awards, do have a category for best stunt performance.
Yeah,
I think that's awesome.
It's ensemble, and they do give a coordinator's award out as well. There's a thing also called the Taurus Awards, which is specifically, it was started by this guy Dieter, who created Red Bull. And
oh, really?
And he did Red Bull, became a billionaire, and then funded this thing for stunt performers, and Red Bull now is huge in the X Games and
the
acrobatic planes, and and all these things. And you know, they've had Schwarzenegger come and Stallone speak at the.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so it's yeah.
It's good that at least you're getting recognized.
No, and listen, they love to go to the parties and get dressed up and dance, and it's fun.
Well, Tim, I really appreciate it.
Flavio, pleasure. Keep doing what you're doing.
Yeah,
You know, it's
and now you know if you see his face, now you'll know the man
it doesn't
behind.
bother me when I'm out at dinner.
The man driving the plumber's truck in Indiana Jones. But definitely go on IMDb, look up Tim Gallin, Gallin, and you'll see a lot of the projects that he's worked on. And if you're like me, pause, because now you could do that very, very easily. You could pause and look and say, I know that guy.
I think my autograph is worth 15 cents now. So
That's right, but you know what? I'll get a bunch and then I'll sell them for 30 cents. So I'll double my money. Thank you again.
you're welcome.
All right, enjoy the movies, everybody, and be well.